Welcome back to our series of videos all about lifetime ISAs, and today we're talking about using a LISA to save for a house deposit. Because so far in this series we've been talking about using a LISA to save for retirement, we thought we'd talk about how would we go about using a LISA to save for a house deposit.
This is a LISA and this is a house.
Thank you for explaining my joke.
And now, let's get straight onto this. When can you withdraw from a LISA? If you haven't seen the original videos we made, which is what is a LISA and the pros and cons, look at those. This is specifically related to houses, this video, but there are 3 situations where you can withdraw from a LISA.
First of all, when you reach age 60.
And this I love. I can't believe you actually used aging software on the Mona Lisa to make it look old.
That's at least at age 60. Second of all, you can withdraw from a LISA to buy a house, and there's rules around this which we'll come on to. And finally, a little bit morbidly, you can actually get to your LISA if you have a terminal illness and are going to die in the next year. But hopefully that won't apply to you. So let's go on to looking at the LISA for house deposit. But quick, a message from our lawyers, Alan.
Yes, we are not financial advisors. The tax rules change every year. This was recorded in early 2024. Government websites actually really good on lifetime ISAs.
Well done, government.
And they are only available in the UK. Sorry about the rest of the world. We'll do something else for you later. Right, there are rules around using a LISA for a house deposit.
So first of all, and this is the key one, you have to be a first-time buyer. You cannot have had owned a property anywhere in the world, not just in the UK. This is designed to help you save for your house deposit as a first-time buyer only.
When you buy, it has to be with a mortgage, so they expect you to actually take a mortgage out. You're not just using this and you're particularly wealthy and can buy the house outright.
It must be a property in the UK worth no more than £450,000, and you must actually live in the property. This is not to be used as an investment.
It's the only home you own, so this is not where you can use it to buy multiple homes. It's the only home you own yet. And
you can only use it to actually buy the house and use it as a deposit once you've had the LISA open for at least a year.
Now, there are 2 types of LISA. There is the cash LISA and there is the stocks and shares LISA.
And the reason that we're looking at this is because over time, stocks and shares will always outperform cash. Stocks and shares are the winner. But of course, then it comes the question, well, how long are we investing for? If I'm going to be saving up for a house deposit, am I thinking about buying in 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, 2 years? Who knows? So we need to think about how long you're investing for. Because say you're starting at 18 and investing and thinking, well, what age am I going to be withdrawing the money, or not withdrawing the money, using the money to put towards a house deposit? What are the possible things that could happen?
So if you were to purchase the house at 25, you've invested your money every year, the £4,000 maximum every year up until you're 25. What would that actually be worth? You would have invested 32 grand, and it could have possibly grown with market growth to 63 grand. So you would have doubled your money as a possible deposit on your first house, which is phenomenal.
That's pretty good. If you wait till you're 28 and have invested £44,000 overall, it could possibly grow to about £102,000. And this is based on average stock market returns historically.
Which 102 grand is a damn good deposit. And you might be thinking, I can't live with my parents till 28. You don't have to. You could rent in the meantime. You could do something else. You could live with friends. There are plenty of options. If you managed to leave it in until you were 30, you would have invested 52k and you'd have 135, heading towards tripling your money, which is phenomenal.
It's pretty cool. And what if you waited till you were 40 until you bought that first property, and you will have invested £92,000, assuming you invested the maximum £4,000 every year, and that could grow to about £437,000.
That's a good deposit.
And this is based on investing in broad-based low-cost index funds. Come to Rebel Finance School if you have no idea what that means.
So you can see that the longer you leave your money in, the more it compounds and the more it grows and the more you'll actually have. But there is a big risk here.
Yeah, exactly. It's worth saying as well that this is not guaranteed. This is what would happen on average if you got average returns every year. But the stock market is volatile. The stock market goes up and down every day, every month, every year. It's not a smooth ride. So there is a risk that you invest your money wanting to buy a house, and then when it comes to the point that you want to take the money and use it to buy a house, the risk is the market is down and that you've lost money, or it's not as much as you were hoping it would be.
The classic example of that would be like the 2008 crash. If you'd happened to have invested in your LISA and you wanted to buy a house in 2008, you would have struggled because your amount in your account would have gone ridiculously down and you would have to wait for it to recover. So that's the risk. So we thought we'd actually put some numbers on these risks because we love a good chart and we love some numbers.
I made some charts. It was happy times. So we've looked at the different time frames that you're investing for and your chances of losing money in the stock market if you invest over that time period. And again, this is low-cost, broad-based global index funds. This is not choosing individual stocks and shares. No, no, no. So for each of these, we have a blue bar on the left, which shows you the risk of losing money in the stock market, and an orange bar on the right, which shows you the chances of actually gaining money and being up. So after a month, you're looking at historical data, 38% of the time you will have lost money looking at a month in the stock market.
That's a big chance.
Yeah, so, nearly over a third of times over a month you will lose money.
How about for a year?
For a year, it's about a 1 in 4 chance of losing money. So again, that's not something you want to be risking your house deposit on. This is something that's obviously important to you that you're investing for. So a year is not long enough to be looking at that time frame for.
However, over 5 years, you only have an 11% chance of timing the market badly and losing money, which to us seems like a pretty good bet at that point.
I think most people would look at the chance and go but 11% is still there. Look at the positive, 89% chance of being up.
And the worst that happens is you have to leave your money in there for a year or two for it to grow, and you have to rent for a couple of years until the market has recovered. Now, if you're investing over an even longer time period, like 10 years, the risk goes down to 5%. And if you're talking about 15 years, it's 0.2%. Basically, there's never been a time in history where the market's gone down over that length of period. So what are we actually trying to say to you?
If you're in this for the short term, thinking of buying a home, and by that we mean less than 5 years, I personally would not invest in stocks and shares LISA. I would go for a cash LISA.
If you're in it for the long term, over 5 years, then we would use the stocks and shares ISA. We get our money invested because stocks and shares always outperform cash over the long term.
Yes, stocks and shares LISA. Yeah.
Well, stocks and shares in general just
true.
Outperform cash. Whether it's in a LISA doesn't really matter. Cash is not a great asset.
Exactly. And what I wanted to say is one of the key phrases we have at Rebel Finance School, it is not binary, meaning it's not either one or the other. It's not either you invest in cash or invest in cash. Keep it in cash or invest in stocks and shares. You could do a little bit of both if you weren't sure. We have a big but though, Alan.
There's always a big but, and it's normally around the government rules.
Yes, we have some more rules for you. So, they're not our rules, they're rules that the government has imposed. You can only open one of either type per tax year. So you can either, per tax year, open a cash LISA or a stocks and shares LISA. Those are your two options. You can only open one.
And you can only pay into one per tax year. So you might open a stocks and shares LISA in the first year and invest the full amount, and then in the second year you could invest in a cash one instead. So to summarise all of this stuff to make it easy for you, what is the Donigan strategy, Katie? And I realise this is a bit weird because there's a picture of us talking over a picture of us in the slides.
They know who we are by this point.
Yeah, there's double Donegan.
So starting young, then I would go stocks and shares, LISA, let it grow, and starting young, and with the idea that it's going to be a little while until you're going to be buying that house, more than 5 years.
And the key with this one is once you've started investing, you actually have the option of using it for a house or leaving it for retirement. So you might get to 30 and go, I just want to go travelling for a bit, and you don't have to buy, you could leave it for retirement. And then you also get on the thing of rent versus buy, which we talk a lot about on the Rebel Finance School course.
Yeah, there's this assumption that renting is throwing your money away and that you must buy your own home, you must get on the property ladder. But it's not necessarily cheaper if you think of all the interest you're paying to the bank if you own a home, all the upkeep and the maintenance and all sorts of things and wear and tear around the home. It's not necessarily better financially to buy than rent. Of course, there's an emotional decision around it as well, but I would just say do not assume that buying a house is the best financial decision.
We are not anti-property, we are pro-mathematics and actually making decisions based on maths, not just old sayings like renting is throwing away money. Ignore the old sayings, actually do the maths. And then the final bit of our strategy, if we were buying a house in the short term, we would put our money in a cash LISA, we would take the government top up, thank you very much, Rishi Sunak, and then we would buy the house with that. So there's the Donigan strategy of what we would do if we were using a LISA to buy a house. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit like, check out the other videos in the series, and is there anything else to say, Katie?
Thanks for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments. Are you going to go for a cash LISA or a stocks and shares LISA?